Let's take a look about the most popular languages there are to choose, and by the categories. The largest projects for desktop games and console games are usually developed with C, C++, or even the assembly language family. Of course, if you are doing smaller projects, then the most used languages in general are C# or Java. Mobile games are nowadays very popular games, and the development usually it happens with C#, Java, or Objective-C. If you are developing a game for a certain platform. For example, if you are programming with Java a game, you are making it directly to Android operating system, for example Samsung's and LG's. A C# is for Windows Phone only, and Objective-C is for iOS only. However, if you choose to make one game to all of the platforms, you may to develop so-called cross-platform game or hybrid, so to speak. You may use HTML5 and with JavaScript. Web games are which work in the browsers are also popular nowadays, and they are usually developed with Flash. It's a platform, and the programming language used to program those games is ActionScript. Also, there are HTML5 and JavaScript for that purpose. HTML5 is not an actual programming language. It's a so-called notation language, so you are only creating layouts and the looks of the game with it. The JavaScript is the real programming language which provides the functionality for the game. Of course, nowadays many games are communicating with the server. They are online games, and the online part is usually implemented with PHP and Python for the smaller games, where the server side doesn't have to be so efficient. On the other hand, if it has to be, then C#, C++, or Java can be used. Like I said, each programming language has its own advantage and disadvantage. And for example, here are few of the most popular ones which are used. Assembly language family, the advantage of it is that it has a minimal overhead, which means that it is really efficient language. Games which need to be functioning really fast, and the FPS, for example, has to be like really good, then the assembly language can be chosen. Of course, it's a kind of ancient programming language, so it is really error-prone, and programmers in general make a lot of mistakes. Then C can be used. C is widely known language. So if a programmer runs into problems, there is a large community which can help you with those problems immediately. The downside of the C is that it is kind of an old language, so it doesn't support all of the modern paradigms of programming, for example, object-oriented paradigm. C++, also widely known, it has some of the modern language properties like object-oriented thinking, but the downside is that you have to do some things manually, which also can cause errors which can be fatal even to the whole operating system, and crashes can occur. C#, modern language, also object-oriented, so and it provides some automation, so programmer doesn't have to take care of all of the memory things, for example. The downside of C# is that it is in general for Microsoft products only, so only for Windows Phone and Microsoft Windows operating system. Java, it is one of the most popular languages today and also used in smaller projects. There is a huge community behind it, and so also if you run into the problems, you will get help really quick. Modern language, but the downside of the Java is that it is inefficient language. It hardly can be used to larger projects. Then one is JavaScript, also really popular and a big community behind of it, but like Java, it can be really inefficient. So, if you are willing to learn programming and you will choose a language, there are a few ways to study programming. And one is self-learning programming. But if you are about to teach yourself how to program, there are some issues coming, and one is that it can result into in so-called cowboy coding. It means that one can greatly underestimate the time required for learning the language. One may think, for example, that one is a great programmer when in fact one is only a novice or about to starting to learn. Self-learning can result into disregard of accepted standards. Standards mean that the community or the developer of the language is designed the language used in a certain way. Also, it can result in the somehow unreadable code. So if someone else looks at your code, he or she may not understand a single line of it. And this is the one reason is that the disregard of the standards. Then, if you are about to learn programming by yourself, you may be able to produce a working code. But the question is that code working as well as it is possible? Is it an efficient way to implement a certain thing? And it is about the choice of, for example, data structures and algorithms in your code. Then one may ask that how easy it is to get the deep understanding of the programming and the language itself if you are self-learning. Of course, it's possible. I don't deny that, but it's a lot of harder thing to do. Positive sides of self-learning is, and of course the cowboy coding, is that it is flexible. When you are producing code only for yourself, then you don't have to when you don't have to follow standards or write it to someone else to read it, for example, then you can do basically whatever you want. It's a flexible way to program, and it can be used to smaller projects. with a few or only one person. And of course, some may think that it's a media sexy way to program, kind of a Lone Ranger thing. However, if you choose to learn programming in some sort of institution like university or polytechnic, there are, of course, downsides also. Many of the university students nowadays, they struggle with the concepts and they can hardly produce larger projects. One of the biggest misconceptions about is the difference between object-oriented, so modern programming, and older way to program, so which can be said that procedural style is one of those. The mix of these concepts is very usual among students. It is not as flexible as this cowboy coding, for example. When you have to follow certain standards, then you are somehow limited in certain situations. Of course, it can teach you to use data structures and algorithms correctly, and it can result into better code, more efficient code. And of course, the code can be more readable.